Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's legal breaking reporting, we have an update regarding Kilmar Abrego Garcia versus the United States government in regards to Abrego Garcia being illegally, unlawfully deported despite a 2019 federal immigration judge's court order prohibiting him from being erroneously, illegally, and unlawfully deported. Let's get into this new reporting by CBS News. The article is titled Judge Abrego Garcia case tells DOJ she has no tolerance for gamesmanship. And ladies and gentlemen, the article reads, Greenbelt, Maryland, a federal judge on Tuesday admonished the Department of Justice for not complying with her order to facilitate the release of a Maryland man who the Trump administration admitted had been mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador and ordered expedited recovery in the case. Discovery in the case. We have to give process to both sides, but we're going to move. There will be no tolerance for gamesmanship or grandstanding. U.S. District Judge Paula Xinis said at the start of a hearing in the case involving Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was sent to El Salvador last month. Xinis ordered for the deposition to be completed by April 23rd, when the Justice Department suggested they might invoke privilege. Xinis told them cancel vacation, cancel other appointments, and add that she expects all hands on deck. Lawyers for Garcia and the Justice Department faced off in Xinis' courtroom Tuesday, one day after El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele said he would not be returning Abrego Garcia, a Justice Department attorney said Tuesday that the Trump administration would facilitate Abrego Garcia's return if he arrived at a port of entry and continued to dodge straightforward questions on what the Trump administration is doing, if anything, to return the man. Joseph Mazzara, acting general counsel for the Department of Homeland Security, said in a filing shortly before the hearing that if Abrego Garcia does show up at a port of entry, he would be detained by the Department of Homeland Security and either removed to a third country or be stripped of legal protection that he was granted in 2019, which forbade immigration authorities from removing him to his country of El Salvador. To revoke that legal status, known as withholding of removal, the Department of Homeland Security would have to reopen his immigration case and ask an immigration judge to terminate it. Abrego Garcia's wife, Jennifer Vasquez Sura, said before the hearing that she is asking the Trump administration to stop playing games with the life of Kilmar. At Tuesday's hearing, Xinis said the Justice Department has not yet fulfilled the mandate, the order that I issued, while lawyers for the Justice Department asked for any orders to be stayed after the Supreme Court ruling. Xinis said Tuesday that very day, Mr. Abrego Garcia is detained in CCOT is another date for irreparable harm and given both sides 2 weeks to compel expedited discovery or fact-finding in the case, including sworn depositions from the Trump administration officials with first-hand knowledge of the efforts to return him. I've got nothing. I've got no real response from the government, Xinis said, calling the the Justice Department's arguments thus far two misguided ships passing in the night. Xinis responded to the Justice Department's suggestions that the back and forth is simply a legal dispute and that there is so much daylight between what you keep saying and what the posture of the case is. I will have the record before me to call it like I see it, Xinis said, before she rules on holding the government in contempt of her her order. Despite the Justice Department's filings, this week citing the exchange between President Trump and President Bukele, in which Bukele said he would not be returning Abrego Garcia to the United States. Xinis said that if that were in a court of law, it would have real reinfirmities in a trial in a court of law. No press release is going to move the court the same way that sworn under oath testimony from persons with knowledge, Xinis said. Xinis had ordered the Justice Department to provide her with answers to those questions after the Supreme Court last week unanimously affirmed a portion of an earlier order that required the U.S. to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from Salvadorian custody. Lawyers for Abrego Garcia argued in a filing that the Trump administration defied the district court order and the Supreme Court orders by refusing to provide even basic information about their client's location and what it is doing to follow the directive to return him to the U.S. They asked Xinis to provide 3 types of relief, including ordering the government to explain why it shouldn't be held in contempt for failure to comply with her prior rulings. During a hearing Friday after the High Court released its decision, a Justice Department lawyer repeatedly said he could not provide information about Abrego Garcia's whereabouts. Xinis said in a written order after the proceedings that the Trump administration failed to comply with her directive and made no meaningful effort to obey it. She ordered the government to provide daily updates to the court about Abrego Garcia's location and custodial status, as well as the efforts taken by the administration to bring him back to the United States. In a declaration submitted to the court Sunday, Michael Kazak, a senior State Department official, said Abrego Garcia is currently being held in the Terrorism Confinement Center known as CCOT in El Salvador. He is alive and secure in that facility, Kazak wrote. He is detained pursuant to Sovereign Domestic Authority of El Salvador. In another declaration filed by Ivan Katz, Assistant Director for the Removal Division at ICE, said the administration had no update for the court beyond what had already been shared. The latest filing, submitted Monday from Mazara, said the agency does not have the authority to forcibly extract an alien from the domestic custody of a foreign sovereign nation. The Trump administration officials have been defiant in their response to Xinis' order that they take steps to bring Abrego Garcia back to the U.S. and have argued that their obligations are limited only to removing any domestic obstacles that would impede his ability to return to the U.S., where he has lived since arriving unlawfully in 2011. Federal courts said in a filing Sunday are powerless to direct the executive branch to conduct foreign relations in a particular way or engaging with a foreign nation foreign sovereign in a given manner. Abrego Garcia was arrested by immigration authorities in March and flown to El Salvador with more than 200 other migrants who are now confined in the CCOT. At CCOT. His lawyers have argued that his removal to El Salvador was unlawful, as an immigration judge in 2019 granted him a withholding of removal, a legal status that forbids the Department of Homeland Security from returning him to his home country of El Salvador because he is likely to face persecution from local gangs. Numerous Trump administration officials at the Department of Justice and the Homeland Security, including Solicitor General John Sawyer, have acknowledged that Abrego Garcia's deportation to El Salvador was an administrative error because he was granted withholding of removal. But Katz, the ICE official, said in his declaration that Abrego Garcia is no longer eligible for that relief because of his alleged membership in the MS-13 gang, which President Trump designated as a foreign terrorist organization. While the Department of Homeland Security has claimed that Abrego Garcia has ties to MS-13, citing allegations from a confidential informant, his lawyers argue that he is not a member of MS-13 or of any other gang. They have also said he has never been charged or convicted of any crimes in the U.S., El Salvador, or any other country. Abrego Garcia's case landed before the Supreme Court last week after Xinis issued an order on April 4 that directed the Trump administration to facilitate and effectuate Abrego Garcia's return by 11:59 p.m. on April 17, a stroke before midnight. The Justice Department appealed, and the Chief Justice John Roberts issued a temporary order pausing that deadline to allow the Supreme Court more time to consider whether to grant the Trump administration's request to block Xinis' order. The High Court on Thursday upheld part of the decision that required the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from El Salvadoran custody, but said the district court should clarify its directive that the Trump administration effectuate his return. Xinis moved swiftly in responding and issued a new order requiring the Trump administration to take all available steps to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return to the United States as soon as possible. Trump administration officials claimed that it is up to the El Salvadorian government to decide if they want to return Abrego Garcia to the U.S. But during a meeting with President Trump on Monday, Salvadorian President Nayib Bukele said he does not have the power to do so. How can I return him to the United States? He said in response to the questions from reporters. I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do? Of course, I'm not going to do it. The question is preposterous. The U.S. is paying the Salvadorian government $6 million to house migrants at CCOT. Ladies and gentlemen, with that reporting comes a new reporting that will be in another video. If you did enjoy this first portion of the video, please consider liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing for more legal breaking news that you need to know about. You can do so by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And hitting the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button down below on the right hand side. You guys can also stay up to date and in the know-how of when I post a new legal breaking reporting to the channel by following me on my social medias. I am on Instagram, Snapchat, Threads, as well as TikTok. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the overall channel goal of 150 plus subscribers. The reason why I'm saying 150 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 150 subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve right after we reach and achieve the goal of 150 subscribers. That is going to do it for this portion of the video, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned for the next second portion to this breaking story and breaking reporting.